Who is your cuento keeper? Cuentos are stories, and a cuento keeper is someone who keeps stories alive. It could be someone who knows the stories by heart, or someone who's part of making your memories. We all have cuento keepers. Who is your cuento keeper? One of my cuento keepers is my childhood best friend, Raymar G. Risuelo. Here we are in kindergarten. Aren't we cute? He helped me reflect on my own journey as I was studying the educational pathways of Filipino-American community college students. As we reminisced and gossiped about our former classmates, we opened up about the pressures we faced as kids. I confessed to him that I never saw myself as smart. I just wanted to read my favorite book, The Little House on the Prairie. In first grade, I remember rushing through a math worksheet, randomly writing down answers just to get to that reading corner. And in third grade, after bringing home a report of bad grades to take home and sign, I secretly forged my parents' signature to avoid the wrath of my strict mother. Raymar was shocked. He said, "My parents would always compare me to you, and I hated it. I'm so glad that you weren't perfect and that you were actually stupid." "That makes me feel so much better," he said. See, Raymar and I didn't become immediate best friends. We bonded years later in the summer of 1997 over our shared love of Filipino variety TV shows. This was pre-YouTube days, folks, so we had to rent these bootleg VHS tapes to, learn the latest dance moves. So we exchanged tapes, marking a shift from being just classmates to friends. From then on, Raymar and I, we thrived in the spotlight because, y'all, we're both Leos. He even coined himself Raymar the Star as he signed the back of his Starshot photos. Y'all remember that, right? Starshot photos. So when everyone else was a wildflower at the school dances, we couldn't wait to show our latest dance moves. When Alice DJ's 97 hit Better Off Alone came on, we were on. The song simply asked, "Do you think you're better off alone? Do you think you're better off alone?" And in response, the song said, "Talk to me, ooh, talk to me." I realize now that this song summed up our friendship and the future of our relationship. We were always better together, talking and supporting each other through life's ups and downs. Even after I moved to Texas in 2007, Raymar was there for every milestone, from funerals to graduations and to my wedding day. Somewhere along the way, Raymar's become more than just a friend. He's become family. And I've become his. He's one of my cuento keepers, holding the stories of my youth. I'm so blessed to have someone share these lived experiences with me, someone who can hold me accountable when my own memory is a little blurry. I want to ask you, who holds the stories of your life? Who do you turn to when you can't remember what happened? Who is your cuento keeper? Okay, you might be hearing some unfamiliar words here like, what is a cuento, right? Well, a cuento is a story or a narrative in the Filipino language, Tagalog. It stems from the Spanish root word cuento. Here's a quick history lesson. In the 1500s, Spanish colonization forced Filipinos to adopt the Spanish language, religion, and customs for over 300 years, nearly erasing our indigenous history. But before then, the Philippines, a country made up of over 7,000 plus islands, had a rich indigenous history and tribal culture. When Spain sold the Philippines to the US for $20 million in the Treaty of Paris of 1898, it paved the way for American influence on education, language, and government. Fast forward to the passing of the Immigration Act of 1965, paving the way for Filipinos to immigrate here, just like my family, to settle and build communities across this country. Today, the US Census states that 4.5 million Filipino Americans live here, making us the third largest Asian American group in this country. Between these generalized and historical events are countless untold stories, hidden in the complex layers of generational trauma, oppression, resilience, and triumph. Here is where we need to excavate, to dig into our past, to get to our future. When I talk about cuentos, I'm talking about the lived experiences that define us, the stories that make us who we are today. Telling stories is called cuentohan. Storytelling is a courageous act of vulnerability in all cultures, where we boldly say, "This happened to me." But really, what we're asking others is, has this happened to you? And if it has, know that you're not alone. In the sharing of our stories, we often reveal parts of ourselves, finding healing in the process. Cuentohan becomes a powerful act of decolonization, what researcher Lenny Strobel calls indigenizing, a return to our roots to reclaim what colonization has erased. Though we cannot change history, we can storytell it from our own perspective. Through the remembering and the honoring of our cuentos, we reclaim our roots. In my work as a publisher, I've seen how providing a space to be heard empowers others. During the pandemic, I fulfilled a lifelong goal of documenting my elders' cuentos. I hosted weekly Zoom sessions so they could write their life stories. Every Sunday, we gathered to reminisce and remember. One of our collective memories was our annual Christmas Eve show that started in 1989. I was so proud of this family tradition, y'all, that while everyone else in America was having what I called boring Christmas dinners, my family was having a blast, performing original skits, songs, and dances, all competing for the best overall performance, as seen in the certificate that my family won in 1993. It was like winning the Oscars, y'all. We even had creative stage names for each family. My family's creative stage name was Chubby Armand and the Babes. Chubby Armand is my father, whose name is Armando. And the Babes consisted of my mother, whose nickname is Baby, and me and my sister, Cindy, who were the youngest babes of our family at the time. Recounting memories like this brought us all to tears, joy, and laughter. These cuento circles were a lifeline during the pandemic, giving us an opportunity to connect and reflect when tomorrow felt uncertain. In my anthology project, the poem Press Release by Crystal R. highlights the importance of sharing our stories, but also the hesitation to share due to personal fears. In my experience, people avoid writing their life stories, often saying, "I don't know what to write." But what they're really saying is, my story doesn't matter. Often they'll say, who'll even listen to my story? We've silenced ourselves because we've been silenced before. Remember when I mentioned 300 years of Spanish colonization and oppression and generational trauma? Well, digging into personal history brings up some scary things, and no one wants to bring that up. By providing a Kuwento space, people feel free to be real, messy, and raw. At the end of her poem, Crystal realizes this. My nature is to share these stories, to know that I am not alone. And as I become a fuller person, I hope to empower you to tell yours without shame. In the telling of our stories, we triumph in humanity by accepting our truths without shame. Through my involvement with the Filipino-American National Historical Society, also known as FONS, and specifically the Houston, Texas chapter, I've seen how preserving cuentos on a large scale. FONS has been documenting and archiving the experiences of Filipino Americans for over 40 years. I had the honor of co-chairing the 20th Biennial National Conference this year, and I witnessed over 500 people in attendance learning and celebrating Filipino American history for 5 days straight. I also had the privilege of listening to Dr. Dorothy Cordova, also known as Auntie Dorothy. Auntie Dorothy is our 94-year-old co-founder who started an oral history project in the late 1970s. Auntie Dorothy said this, "My project hasn't ended. It's now your project. It was never my project. It was our project." Auntie Dorothy is a serial cuento keeper. To this day, she still researches and hosts programs. She was reminding us to continue the practice of cuento keeping no matter what age you are. Her words are a call to action that hit me hard. We have a sacred responsibility to carry forward these untold stories, to ensure that the voices of our ancestors light the way for future generations, to recognize our experiences as an essential part of American history, and that our cuentos are American history. Just as every birthday ends with a wish and a breath that extinguishes the flame, one day our own lives will reach its final chapter. The candle wick burns low and the light fades. And with our last breath, we say goodbye. On May 22, 2022, Raymar took his last breath, passing away at the age of 37 from a sudden heart attack. My world plunged into darkness. It was the first time I ever felt the depth of true loss. But through the healing powers of cuentos, I know that Raymar rests in the heavens, watching over us as an ancestor who guides me. It's now my turn to be his cuento keeper, to carry forward his stories, his memory, and his spirit. Who is your cuento keeper? And more importantly, Whose cuentos will you keep alive? Today, tap into your inner cuento keeper. Celebrate the stories of your life, family, and community. Write them down, share them, record them, and preserve the artifacts that hold their true essence. By keeping our cuentos alive, we ensure that the light never truly fades, but burns brightly in the stories we share and in the lives we touch. Maraming salamat. Thank you.